Avatar the Last Airbender is one of the best animated shows of all time, and one of the greatest cinematic masterpieces ever. So when the movie came out back in 2010, as someone who had grown up with the series, I was excited to see my favorite characters reimagined on the big screen. And we all know how that went. So you can understand how hesitant I was to be excited when Netflix announced a live action series. I was just sure it would end in another unspeakable disaster. But when it was revealed that Dante DiMartino and Bryan Konietzko, the original creators of the show, were producers on the new live action series, now that was huge, because it meant the original creative vision, the heart of the characters, and the essence of the story would remain intact. Also, the accurate cultural aspects and historical significance of the show would be respected. But that all changed when the Netflix nation attacked. Michael and Bryan stood down from the show because of creative differences with Netflix. Now, this is just terrible news for so many reasons. It means that all those important great things I just said about the new show mean pretty much nothing. If Michael and Dante were let go for budget costs, or because of COVID, or literally any other reason than creative difference, then it would be okay. But this was the absolute worst case scenario, because it means that Netflix wants to take the show in a new direction that the original creators of the show don't agree with. And this isn't a simple case of some minor differences between the original source material and the new show. The issues were so big that the passionate creators of the original show had no other choice but to leave. Now, if that isn't the biggest red flag, then I don't know what is. Because if the creators of the original show, who were able to make something that to this day is so beloved around the world, are not able to do it their way, then which way are we doing it? Definitely not the right way. So now let's talk about the new cast that just got confirmed by Netflix for the live adaptation. What in the cocoa melon shit is this? Gordon Cormier has been cast as Aang. Firstly, this kid looks like he learned how to count past 4 just yesterday. I cannot believe Netflix has cast a literal toddler as the master of all 4 elements. It's just silly to look at. Now, in reality, he's actually 11, which is not much better. In the original show, Aang is actually 12. Now, the 1 year difference might not seem to be too big of a deal, but during puberty, 1 year can actually change quite a lot. If you remember the kids in Stranger Things Season 1, 11 looked like a fetus, and then 1 year later in Season 2, she looks like she's just about ready to call the manager. Finn looked like he was going to burst out crying any second, and a year later, he looks like he's about to start an indie rock band that eventually goes nowhere. Okay, so he looks a bit young, who cares? Why does it even matter? Well, because in the original show, Aang and Katara end up in a relationship. Now, in the show, Aang is 12 and Katara is 14, which is already a little bit weird. But now in the Netflix show, the actor for Aang is 11 and the actor for Katara is 15. Can you imagine an 11-year-old in a relationship with a 15-year-old? And it doesn't really help that he looks like a little kid and she looks like a fully grown adult, and also nothing like Katara. Now, if that for some reason doesn't sound weird enough to you, keep in mind the Netflix show is slated for 3 seasons. Now, with Netflix shows, if you assume that each season is roughly a year apart, even if they skip the initial cave scene kiss, which I guess they can dodge, what about the final kiss scene that literally ends the whole show? I feel like that's such a pivotal and important moment in their entire relationship and such a perfect finish to a perfect show, it would be really disappointing if it got cut out. Anyway, my point was that 3 seasons later, the kid Aang will be 14 and Katara will be 18. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems more than just a little bit weird to me. Also, not to mention this kid is literally 4 feet tall, and Kyo is over 5 feet tall, which means the top of his head won't even reach the bottom of her head. For them to kiss, he would literally need to face directly up, and she would need to face directly down. Or maybe they'll make him stand on a stool. You know what? I don't even need to analyze this further. I'm just going to keep this photo of the two of them up side by side, and I want you to just imagine for a moment. This kid shaves his head, so he's even shorter, and now I want you to imagine these two in a relationship, and then they're making out. Are you uncomfortable yet? Because I sure am. I've even heard some rumors that with Aang looking so young, they probably won't ship him with Katara. Instead, in the Netflix adaptation, we might see Zutara, which a lot of fans want to see, but a lot don't. And apparently, this was one of the big creative differences that Michael and Bryan had with Netflix. What do you guys think? Do you prefer Katang or do you prefer Zutara? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about Ian Owsley. Now, in this cast photo, I think he's an okay choice, but I don't really see it. But then I saw this other photo where he's smiling and much more relaxed, and you know what? I actually don't mind it. Once they give him like the soccer haircut and he's in a costume and makeup, I think this is actually a pretty decent choice in terms of looking the part. Now, when I first saw Dallas Liu was cast, my initial thought was, sorry, but that doesn't look like Zuko to me. I get their backgrounds might be similar, but they look very, very different. Personally, I would have cast a Korean actor as Zuko. I think it might have been more accurate to how Zuko actually looked. And it would make sense too, because the Fire Nation was based on both Chinese and Korean influences. But hey, at least they didn't cast my boy Baljit from Slumdog Millionaire. Look, the original Avatar The Last Airbender was so beautiful and carries such nostalgic and sentimental power among its fans that pretty much nothing can ever top it. The bar has been set so high that any Avatar adaptation that comes after it just has too big of shoes to fill. Although this cast and the direction seem a little bit all over the place, I'm going to go in with an open mind, and I'm honestly still excited and hopeful that we'll get something that's at least somewhere in between the movie and the show. It might not be much, but even if that introduces the Avatar to a new generation, and that inspires them to watch the original show, that's still a win. Although I am jealous that they get to experience this incredible story for the first time, but hopefully, not the last.